and blessed unity with the L-O-V-E. Love is the solution, so set your love free with the L-O-V-E. Further evolution and blessed unity. Good morning, self-lovers. Welcome back to the Self-Love Show. I'm your co-host, Dawn Light, and my beautiful sister here, Trish Wright, is my other co-host for the Self-Love Show. And in case you are new to us, welcome. We're so grateful to have you here. And for our longtime viewers, we're so thankful for you. And in case you don't know, we're on all the platforms. So go check us out. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all the places. And there's so many gems and jewels over the last, honestly, we're coming up on 4 years. This come 2024 will be 4 years for us. So it's such a gift to do this show and to give vulnerably and honestly and openly and serve you powerfully in your understanding of greater capacity to have self-love and your relationship with spirit and all your beloveds in your life and have enriched life experiences. And so that's the goal, that's the desire, that's the dream, that's the why we're here, is to support you in your elevation in your consciousness around love and experiencing yourself as knowing yourself as love. So without further ado, we have an amazing guest today. She's a sister friend of mine, and I'm so grateful to have you here. And so I'm going to read Laura Taylor's beautiful bio. We're going to talk open-heartedly today about living vulnerably with Laura. And so vulnerable living is a way to heal, grow, and live in a deeply self-connected, self-loving, and fully self-resourced way. Laura has a master's in counseling psychology from the California Institute of Integral Studies in San Francisco and is a California licensed marriage and family therapist. Woohoo! She's been blessed over 26 years to have a dynamic and rewarding private practice. And she has the credentials. Her credentials have allowed her to access many beautiful clients. It is the things she has learned from working with people who entrust her to guide them on a healing journey back to themselves, along with a dedication to her own ongoing growth and healing, that has taught her the most valuable and usable lessons. She has learned from decades of supporting those who have endured various forms of trauma while working to stay at least a few steps ahead of her clients' own healing journey in order to take them further and deeper. Yes, yes, yes. So her main focuses have intertwined from an initial focus on all kinds of trauma, couple and family dynamics, family constellation work, which is dealing with epigenetics in the family system, and recovery from narcissistic abuse. When her own life fell apart, that was when her vulnerable living tools started to evolve. Just 6 weeks after her mother, who was her best friend, offered great amounts of emotional and practical support, was diagnosed with cancer, she died peacefully in her home with herself and her eldest daughter by her side. Oh, that's so tender. And then 18 months later, the marriage that was held together with toxic tape and frayed string completely unraveled. It was literally discarded after 25 years. And only then could she identify that she had married a narcissist. So her healing process was identifying what led her to attempt to bond with such an unavailable man, learning never before known ways of self-connection and inner resourcing, and dedicating herself to tending to her heart, mind, and body first and foremost are what led her to discover the path of vulnerable living. So fast forward to her current life, her private practice is both full and satisfying. She's at a place where she gets to pick who she works with, consistent dedication to one's healing, and willingness to follow the homework and assignments she's given in her sessions and necessary ingredients. She has an amazing partner of almost 5 years, yay, whom she loves and adores and who treats her with so much love, support, regard, and respect in ways she's never known possible before addressing her own inner breaks. She lives on an acre where they foster growth, peace, and lovely garden spaces. They're both dedicated to their own growth and healing and have no interest in co-behaving with one another. And she's also has a wonderful relationships with her 3 adult daughters and their partners, and it spends a lot of her free time with her 3 beautiful grandchildren. So she says the life she has now could never been imagined previously, and it's so precious. And she's blessed to help others do the same. Oh my gosh, amazing.
Sorry, I gave you a lot of tongue twisters there, but it reflects how I feel in my
Absolutely. Welcome, love.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
I love, I think it happens all the time, just to say, is that when people hear their bios read back to them or like the things that it's always like,
Exactly.
and I was like, maybe we should all have just like a community where we just like read each other's bios to each other and be like, yeah, okay.
Well, that's interesting because, I hope this is an okay place to start, but one of the traditions that I started in my family, actually, I believe it was after my mother passed, was whenever it's someone's birthday, we all go around the table and talk about what we appreciate about them, what's unique about them, and what they mean to us. And the reason I decided to do that was I was hearing that at funerals. And I thought the dead people can't hear this. Of course, the people that are still left behind can, but to nurture each other and to say what we're grateful for around everybody's special day has been a great tradition. So I suggest that. They used to go, oh no, we're not going to do that thing now. And now they go, oh, and someone will get started. It's great. Anyway.
I love that.
Well, maybe I'll ask for that for my birthday. That's on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I suggest you do.
I think that you are in the midst of some vulnerability bliss ninnies right here. and one of the things that makes our relationship work so well, my relationship and all of our relationships works, is the vulnerability. And through vulnerability is where we can find intimacy. It is through conflict. It is through being held in the like, and giving someone the, and then being like, oh, I love it, and then finding that in intimacy. And so I'm so happy you're here to talk about vulnerability. And I'd love to just shoot us off into, let's define vulnerability and being vulnerable and what's vulnerable living and why we want it. Why would we want to invest ourselves into that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I remember being at a totally different stage in my life, driving somewhere in Florida with my brother. And I think it was he who said, you should listen to this Brene Brown person. And we listened to Brene. And I remember that my memory isn't great, except unless it impacts me emotionally. And I remember going, that's what I'm going for. That's what I'm going for. And this was, I don't know, 15 years ago, maybe more than that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, and so I just want to give her credit for all the people that she's affecting in the world. And I was one of them that she deeply moved, unbeknownst to her, I'm sure. But what I've learned about vulnerability, and I have a different take on it than she does. So this is what I think is fun. I put my Laura twist on it. Vulnerability is being open with courage. Mm-hmm. That's how I look at it. Now, where I do learn the twist, the Laura twist, is vulnerability with courage and self-boundaries. Mm-hmm. I used to do vulnerability with courage and no self-boundaries. Mm-hmm. And that got me into trouble. Yes. Many, many times, because my boundaries are to keep me in, right? They're not actually to keep other people out. I can have boundaries and people can come in and out, but it's knowing and honoring my values, my value, and what the relationship is going to be to me. And so vulnerability isn't just pouring our guts out. And this is one of the things that I work with a lot of couples and families who are like, well, that's my person. I should be able to say whatever I want. Oh, really? If you're holding their hand in your heart, where's my heart? Let me just take a second. I want to grab my heart. Sorry. You get to see my buns for a minute. If you are holding someone's heart in your hand, are you going to poke at it because you know their soft spots? Well, you used to do that with your mom. Or are you going to drop it? Well, screw you. I'm out of here then. I hate you. You're not fair, whatever, all the stuff that can go on. No. You remember, you're holding their heart. You've got a close person's heart in your hand. And at the same time, you're holding your own heart, right? Yes. And that was the part, the holding my heart. I know how to be open and vulnerable, but I didn't know how to be with myself while doing that. And I think for a lot of us, that's a missing component. And I don't know if I think that's I was going to say a big part of being a human, but I've also encountered a lot, woman, but I've also encountered a lot of men that have had that same thing that I call often, there's a lot to say about this. So, but let me just suffice to say that I think being vulnerable is also protecting or being aware of your own heart at the same time you're connecting with another heart.
Agreed.
And in my model, my belief is that we are already resourced for everything that we need.
Yes, me too.
Okay. And that there are, what I say is love is our natural state. And if we're not able to love ourselves, what's disconnected? What's in the way? I try to think about kind of helping people to repurpose their insides or remodel, do a remodeling or put their puzzle into the puzzle of their life back together in a different way with new pieces. So my job in working with people, and I think it's my superpower, is in a few minutes, I can get to the core of an issue. They all talk about, we argue about this and that, and I'll go to very early issues and shed light on them with love and invite us to look at that. So let me back up for a minute. Vulnerable living, the way that I look, my model is that we have 3 equal-sized circles, kind of like a snowman, one circle on top of the other. The base of the circle is the vulnerable child. That's the part that is our body, literally. It's our feelings. And it's the part of us that developed even before we had words. That's the emotional part of us and the physical part of us. Then we have the inner parent, and then we have the inner adult. The inner parent's job is to simply love, reflect the child, protect the child, be present with the child inside of us. Mm-hmm. And then the inner adult is the part that develops post-adult or post-childhood, and is the part that learns to drive. It may start to develop at age 16 or 17 and continues to grow throughout our life. Now, the equal-sized circles are a healthy person. They have access to all of these different parts as needed. What I find is most people that come to me, I don't care how successful they are, I don't care how old they are, I don't care anything about their stats. Most people that come to me, when they come to me, they've got a huge vulnerable child and a little pea-sized adult and a pea-sized parent, often. That's where their problems are coming from, because they don't have a connection with that part, and it tends to unconsciously run their lives. Does that make sense?
Very well said. A great explanation to give a visual to like what's actually physically going on, because I can say the same thing for my own clients. Like a lot of times there's like an overwhelming, wound in the emotional intelligence, or where they've, when you deal with people with a lot of trauma, that's what's going on. It's like it's running the show in the unconscious, and that was my own for me for a long time in my life. That was my journey of healing. And why I'm even in this role doing this now is because I had to learn to heal that part of myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the linchpin piece, a really important piece, is that we will treat ourselves by default the same way we were treated by our parents. So a lot of times what feels normal or what we're attracted to in the world, well, I'm drawn to him. He's really a bad boy, or whatever it is, right? Well, yeah, that was how you were treated at home. And you may not even, some of the early memories, you may not even remember. They're of course held in your body, but we will continue to replay that, and our lives will continue to reflect the pain that needs addressing. That's the beauty of it. The other side, on the other side of that is that life also reflects the work that we do. Mm-hmm. And it will show us, I find with my clients, I know that they've integrated, it's not just an intellectual piece, that they've integrated this work when their lives start to change on the outside.
Yes.
And And I don't tell them that in the beginning. I just say, let's do this work. Let's keep coming home to you, keep coming home to you. And then all of a sudden it's like the dominoes fall.
Yeah.
And they start to change.
Oh, it makes me so happy to hear that.
One of the things that I like to do in my coaching practice is to coach them in such a way that when they think about it in the future, that they did it and I'm not even there.
Yes.
And I'm like, I don't want to be the person
Yes.
that helped stimulate or the catalyst for change. I want them to be like, oh my God, I did it all. Like, so when they're like, oh yeah, this is what, and I was like,
Well, and that's integrating the internal parent. And that's often what's checked out, disassociated, drinking, working too hard, not present. And as we grow and fertilize and foster that loving inner parent, that part is managing the child and with all the feelings and the intuition and the messages and all of it, and stays with it so that those can kind of come to a place of resolution and ease. And then the adult does exactly that. I'll just say a lot of people are walking heads.
Yes.
They're the adult. They don't have any connection to their bodies or their feelings. That causes problems. And then there are the people that are like the children with meat hooks out in the world trying to get things from people. And they don't even realize it. And I have so much compassion for people because we all have our struggles. I mean, there's trauma, big capital T trauma, there's small t trauma, and there are unresolved issues, and all of them are just as important to address. No, but people often say, well, this is no big deal. And no, if it's blocking you, if it's harming you, if it's getting in the way of you being all of you, we're not going to size it.
It matters.
It matters.
I want to go back a little bit to a previous part of the conversation, because I think that this one isn't discussed very well in the world. Not a judgment. It's just, I think that helping kind of bring in a new voice or another perspective on this piece is going to really help other people. And it's the conversation that we're having about boundaries. So vulnerable living means that you're being authentic. For me, vulnerable living means that you're living authentically to you. Mm-hmm. That you're living in your integrity, your values, your thoughts, your beliefs, all the things are aligning, you're moving in the direction, and you're checking yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And not everyone can hold that. So there's the elements of protection, self-protection, without the self-abandonment or the way that people protect themselves and create walls. Mm-hmm. And I want to go into the boundary bit around what is. Well, I'll just like set it off. To have boundaries is to choose how you are going to relate to a situation. Mm-hmm. So people think that I've had this reflection. Some people are like, you're kind of intimidating. And I was like, well, you are intimidated. I'm here. So I asked, I was like, well, what's the way that I can be more approachable? And they said, well, I know that if I approach you, then I'm going to have to look at my stuff because you're constantly looking at your stuff and you're just that person. And I was like, oh, okay. So I won't engage with people who find me intimidating because that's a self-abandonment. Or if someone thinks that I'm like trash or whatever it is, like I'm not going to, that's a boundary for me. Yes. And if people treat me badly, then I choose how I'm going to relate to it. Yes. Now, here's the bit that I'd love to dive into is to know one's boundaries is to intimately and vulnerably know one's innermost sensitivities, and to know how to not only reparent oneself, but to protect their inner child, to protect their own psyche and their own body and their own energy. And just to like put this like pin in for a second. Yesterday I was talking to a friend and I was like, you know what, time is incredibly precious to me, my time, your time. And I have thought about people's time in this last while about like, if my time is worth $600 an hour, I'm going to double it. And then I'm going to think that everyone's time, including mine, is $1,200 per hour. What am I doing with my time? Mm-hmm. How much is it going to cost to do that? Mm-hmm. And to know that is about myself is like, how do I manage who I'm engaged with? This is a boundary.
Oh, yes.
and to value my time and my energy and my attention and my presence and what we all bring. Like, you get to choose this too if you want, what you all bring to an engagement, to a friendship, to a partnership, to, you know, the parent teacher moments there. Like, what are you bringing there? And you get to choose that thing. But I know that about myself, and that is an incredibly vulnerable place to share that with someone, right? And I'd love to just dive into the vulnerability of boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way that you're talking about it, and I want to say that yes, I think that the way that boundaries are thought of is so different than the way I think of them. The way you're talking about them is how I think of them, and I think it's so important. Actually creating boundaries, I think, is like many other things. It's a process of being so intimate with yourself and so vulnerable with yourself that it changes. Like, I'll never forget. I've made a promise. Let me just tell you the promise to my little girl after having a total fear of abandonment, panic attacks, depression, and conquering that. Literally, I don't have those anymore at all, not at all, without medication, with my journey. I promised my little girl, you know what? People may come and people may go. People may choose you and they may unchoose you, but I will always be here for you. And I will always choose you first and foremost. And that's an important part of the boundaries. First and foremost. And so there was a time that I had a phone call from somebody and they asked me if I could, a very dear person, if I could watch their child while they went out of town. And I very quickly said yes, and realized, oh my goodness, I abandoned myself there. I've already said I'm not going to do that for that person in this situation. So I texted them right back because I was going into a session. I said yes, but I meant no.
Yep.
And the person was a little bit destabilized, like, what do you mean? And I said, I just can't do that. I'm not willing to. And I'm telling you what, the reason I'm sharing this story is I remember the lighting. I remember where I was. That was a linchpin moment for me. Something integrated in me. And what happened right there was my parent self became bigger. Yes. She was not going to worry. The little girl wasn't going to worry about disappointing the person. The little girl was being protected by the adult who told the parent, told the parent adult that told the adult, make the phone call or make the text. We back out, warning, Will Robbins, this is danger zone.
Yeah.
And I was really scared. I've had a number of those times, especially in my intimate relationship. My most intimate relationship is with my daughters and with my partner. I've said no when I meant no. And that's part of the boundary, is not saying yes when we mean no. Mm-hmm. And not saying yes to someone when a yes to them would be a no to us.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think, being in process with ourselves and even making the mistake. One of the things that I suggest people do around this issue of having boundaries is if someone calls and asks you to do something and you're a yes person, or if you're a no person, if another way that you protect yourself is to say no immediately, just say, can I get back to you on that? You can say it on the phone. You can say it at work. You can do it on a text.
Yes.
Let me get back to you. And then go, if you have to, in the bathroom or in your car or wherever, and check in with yourself. Is this a yes? Because there's only one way to say yes. And we know what a yes feels like. No's come in lots of different ways, but a yes is like a hum. Yes, this is right. And let me say, on the other side, you can say no and realize later that your answer is yes. We don't have to get this. There's no perfect in this. This is a process. I like to change from perfect to process. I'm in process. I'm not trying to be perfect.
Good.
Right? And I think the other side of it that I want to say is that in doing this for a number of years now, what I've learned is that it really isn't anybody's responsibility to keep me safe. Now, it's a bonus when other people do. And if they don't, let me tell you, they're going to go further out in my circle of closeness. They're going to be going further out, right? And that's the other thing, is adjusting as we grow and as we become more self-connected and more self-caring and more self-loving and really vulnerable with ourselves and caring for ourselves. First and foremost, we assess our friendships, and many of my clients have relationships that end of all kinds or that change dramatically. And I warn them when they work with me, fasten your seatbelt, because I don't know what changes are going to happen. Some things are going to come in closer. Some things are going to leave, and I can't predict it. I don't even try. I have clients that look like they're in really crappy relationships, and I think, oh no. And do you know what? When they get really vulnerable with each other, their hearts open up and they skyrocket. There are others that I think, oh, they're fine, and they decide to not be together. It's for them. It's not for me. They are their own guiding light, and I bring them back to themselves. And that's how I'm always doing it. I say, I'm the mama bird. Come in my nest for a while, and then I might even push you out a little bit when I know you have wings. You can stay as long as you need, but I'm going to remind you, they're your wings, not mine.
Yeah, beautiful.
Did that address some of that, Trish?
Yeah.
Ask me more.
It's just a conversation, between the three of us. We often think about this as a coffee shop conversation where people
I love it.
Know you and get to, hear like, we're their friends, and you get to like fly on the wall, a conversation between some coaches and really get some of the information.
I really love the piece around, I've had to learn this in my own boundary exploration, right? And we all, as you do healing, this is a part of it, right? And that piece around what you mentioned it around, before you say yes or before you say no, you can say, actually, let me sit with that and I'll get back to you. And that's my go-to now, because I have to, like, there's a process that goes on inside, and sometimes it's not clear yet until I really sit with and think about the pieces, and I find when I've slipped up in my life, like, it's when like really intense things are occurring simultaneously, or like one time that comes to my mind is my friends had gone through this really catastrophic event in their life, and they reached out because I had said, hey, if you need anything, I'm here for you, meaning like I'm emotionally here for you, I'm here to support you. And then this person basically called me and left me a message, and I had listened to it while it was raining and I'm driving, and I responded yes when I should have said no. And I immediately, as soon as I said it, it's just like you in that moment, I found it, and I was like, oh, actually, and I had to call back and be like, actually, that's a no. I can't do that upon the request, because I just realized, like, no, that's a no. And if your boundary is being violated, because most of the time, guess what surfaces? Anger.
Yes.
Anger will surface if you have violated your own boundary or allowed somebody else in too close, too much. And immediately I got angry upon thinking about it. And then I was like, oh, that is actually a no for me. I need to call and immediately tell that person. And then I offered what I could offer, which was like, hey, I just want to remind you, what I did say was, I'm here for you emotionally, and I'm here to help you process this and work through it, anything you need. But they were asking for physical touch. And like, I was just like, no, I'm done being a massage therapist. I can't, that's just something that's not, you know what I mean? And I was very clear about that. And it was just, but that helped me understand it. But I found that I said no because it was raining and I was driving. I mean, I said yes by accident. And do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I just want anyone who's listening right now, you have permission to change your mind. I'm going to say it again.
Yeah.
You have permission to change your mind. Not because I'm giving it to you, because you have permission to change your mind. That is your prerogative. But if you need an excuse, you can blame it on me. That's fine.
Or me. I'll take credit too.
We're all taking credit. You're like, oh, I can't do it because Laura, Trish, and Don said it. I can change my mind and I don't want to.
Well, and
I was just gonna say, a lot of the times when you are a trauma survivor in your major relationships, a lot of the times it teaches you in your young child self to people please and to say whatever is needs to say. That's what I learned in my childhood from being a major trauma survivor. And so I learned to always, respond quickly and say yes. And it was just like this knee-jerk reaction to like, please and keep the peace. But the reality is that does not serve my life to do that at all. So it's like recovering people pleaser, like I'm allowed to say no. I'm allowed to have boundaries. I'm allowed to take my time. I'm allowed to think it through, and that's for you too, so yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is how I look at it, is that often we're on automatic. Remember, I talked about default. Default is how we were programmed. And some of our programming was good. Look I'm sure, we're all here. We had to have enough good programming to be people on these paths, right? I mean, that's just all of us here in this space sharing time right now. And And so it's important to acknowledge, first of all, to be grateful for all the things that are positive, right? When we're focused on the things that are challenging. But also, yeah, how do I want to say this? I lost my train of thought. I don't know where I went. Welcome to my brain.
I love your brain.
We love your brain and love your work. It's so beautiful.
I think, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna kind of move into so there's the challenges of living vulnerably is actually putting your neck on the line, right? It's actually like you choosing you, and it's kind of, it's a bold move to choose to live in accordance to your values, to your protection, to and well, to your needs. And there are people who are just going to hate you for it. And that is just going to be the thing. So really living vulnerably for you is looking at your life in a way that gives you freedom to be yourself, and also create the resilience and the container to hold, to let other people have their opinion about your life. And people are going to think you're selfish to say no, or to, I speak with friends and clients and people all the time who still believe that love is sacrifice, because it's wildly socially programmed that when you love someone, you contort, you bend, you give everything to them, you give everything to your children, you give everything to your partner. Don't get me wrong, to choose when to give to them, even though I know that, children need to be taken care of. Like when you choose that coming from a place of actual authentic giving is going to be more powerful than doing it out of resentment and obligation. It's going to feel better for them. It's going to feel more loving. Here, I'm going to say it. Nobody wants you to self-abandon yourself. They want it to come from you. And they also want to trust your no. And I promise, like, if you've been people pleasing for a very long time, just totally not a thought. You've been people pleasing for a long time. When you start setting boundaries and when you start protecting yourself and when you start being honest and living vulnerably, people are gonna be like, what in the world happened? It's gonna blow their mind. It's gonna be a little like reality shifting for them. Things are gonna happen. It's gonna get really, and then it'll get wickedly easier. And what I'd love to talk about is how living vulnerably makes it easy in your life.
Oh my goodness.
What changed?
It cleared out the shit. Let me tell you, it cleared out. I got really clear about where I can be myself, the spaces at work, with clients, with friends. I talk about like the sphere of closeness. I have my inner circle, which is me with me. And then there are other people in concentric circles outside of that. And a lot of the people that were really in, and probably were in here with me, got put out a little bit so that I'm with me solely. I'm here. Doesn't mean I'm not permeable to people coming in, but they're not living in here. They come in and they kind of go out and they're close. So a lot of things fell away. And I have amazing stories about things that fell in my lap. An office building that I was looking for, the other place that I was, it was exactly what I had imagined, this beautiful, tall Victorian building. Boom. He's the guy that I called, said, I just put that ad up a minute ago. I said, well, I just got on Craigslist a minute ago. And I mean, like, right? That's one example. This spot is another one of those stories, but the friendships, like I love to talk about this too, because there are things that come back. There are things that are yours that come back or that come closer. I have one beautiful friend. She's a doula in the community and she's in a wonderful marriage with an amazing man. They love each other. And I was friends with her when I was in my shitty marriage. And I just had my 60th birthday party and 12 of my closest friends were gathered, and I'm close with all of them in a beautiful way. We all are growing. And I said to her when we were talking in this group circle about each other and what she had learned from me and I said to her, I don't think you knew that I couldn't be friends with you that many years ago. Your life was too good. I knew we weren't a match. I loved and adored you and thought you were amazing. And now we're very close. We see each other regularly. And it was, so for me, I know that the energetics of who I was weren't ready yet to be her friend, that I would drag her down and it wouldn't be a match. A lot of those friends I was friendships with in my shitty marriage, some of them are still here, but a lot are not. They're out here because I'm not that person anymore. I mean, I literally, let me say this. This is a part that's almost unbelievable. It's like the magic of this work. But the person I am, literally, physiologically, physically, the way my mind and heart and everything work are different than the person before I transformed.
Yes.
It was a transformation, and it doesn't mean that I don't tip into old default patterns for a minute, but I come back to center. I come back to center. I come back to center. So that was hard at first, coming home to myself, taking risks with people, telling them no when I meant no. It took risks to expand out in my practice and say, I'm not going to take people that aren't going to be a match for me. You mean I'm going to say no to people? It was a lot of saying no to what wasn't enough for me. And that was really scary for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Saying no, this isn't enough, or this isn't the right fit for me. And recognizing that if I'm too much for someone, my partner gave me a magnet, and he said, if someone says you're too much for them, they're not your people. Right? You need that, Trish. You need that magnet.
Oh, no. I have that magnet. I'm aware. What did I say? What was I? Oh, I was in class the other day, and it's like, okay, here's this thing. You're going to hear it all. I'm called an owl, an older, wiser learner, which means that I'm a reentry student, meaning like I'm over 25. AKA to 19-year-olds, I'm old.
Yeah.
And so I was just sharing, and we were talking about the necessity of belonging and community. And this is like something that Dawn and I have literally liked to talk about a zillion times, and on the show and in, person. And I was just sharing, I was like, well, networking. I also realized that networking in my brain does not mean what networking means to everyone else. I'm just like making friends and talking to everyone.
Yes.
And let's see who fits. But I was like, and I know that I'm not everyone's flavor.
Right.
I know that. I know that about myself, because I have gotten into, I don't need your attention. I don't need you to be like, oh, I like Trish. I mean, there would be some people that I would be really upset if someone told me, like, after years of friendship with me, be like, I don't actually really like you. I'd be like, fuck, or darn it. I'd be devastated if they told me those things. But, and it's again, valuing my time and my energy and who I am enough to keep my space from those types of people. And also, like, the cool thing about living vulnerably is that your intuition and the way you move through the world, who you align yourself to, it just changes. Like, I'm not everyone's flavor. I don't want to hang out with everyone. I don't have time for that. Who has time for that? Nobody has time for that. And
it comes down to, like, no longer needing external validation on the outside in any way about anything. Money, friendships, romantic relationships, like all the places where it's placed outside of ourselves. And that's where the slippery, sticky spot is when you're needing that external validation and it doesn't come in the way that you've set it up to, then that's where the hurt or the wound is exponentially it keeps on keeping on, right?
Yes.
But you start to lean in and pour into that place, pour love into the place. Healing is the application of love to the places inside that hurt. And so when you actually move into that and you start to detach from needing it on the external in any way. And then the beautiful thing is the byproduct of that is then the right people start magnetizing into your field and reflecting the loving that you are inside yourself to you.
Yes. And I want to go back to something Trish said that I think is really important, is that a lot of people come to me, they're like thinking about moving, thinking about breaking up a relationship, thinking about changing careers. And I say, well, let's slow down. Let's come back to you. Let's get clear and connected inside of you. And then you'll figure that stuff out. It's like the opposite of the way the world markets to us. Buy this, get this, do that. Get a new relationship, start over, like all of these external emotions that don't move us closer to ourselves. They are just a freaking distraction. They're a distraction from ourselves. And so when we go in, and that's my thing, come home, come back to yourself, love yourself, notice. And I think one of the biggest jobs that we have And I might change this theory, but I really believe is that the inner parents, our inner parents, loving that inner child. So the child doesn't have to do anything to be loved. We don't need to do anything, even for ourselves, because let me tell you, people do it even for themselves. Well, if I'm constantly working, or if I'm getting more money at work, or if I'm making more friends, like there's this part that feels like I'm only lovable if I'm productive, if I'm doing things. And I think that part needs readjusting. And that's what I say. The order of operations is the inner parent is loving and protecting and present with our feelings and our body. We take care of our body. We notice our feelings. We notice sensations. We ask, what are the signals here? What are the messengers telling me? That inner parent is that hub of that, and that the child doesn't have to be cute or be smart or be sexy or anything. She or he just gets to be. And that's enough to be loved by ourselves. And when we love ourselves that way, you get full. Like there's a fullness that you can't describe, that it's beyond description, that then that's what you give when you say yes. You give from that. And it feels different to people too, because I'm going to tell you now, those people that might say I'm too much, I don't even know about it. They're kind of bumping off my sphere. Like maybe they say it somewhere, but I don't hear it and I don't notice it. And I, like you, Trish, I'm making friends everywhere I go. My kids tease me. Who'd you make friends with today, Mom? I'm just matching and meeting people's hearts.
Yeah.
And then I invite them into my vulnerable living group. And if we never talk again, we had an honest, real heart-to-heart encounter. And that's what I want my moments made up of, the rest of them. The rest of the moments.
When people ping off, I say, thank you for self-selecting out.
Exactly.
Or I'm going to self-select out now.
Yes.
For protection of you and for protection of me.
Yes. Yeah. It's easy. It's not hard when you get to this.
I mean, we have to tell them the truth, though. It's like getting to this part it's
yes.
A lot of shifts. You're going to have to grieve.
Well, right. And I was going to say, I call it the dark night of the soul. It's really important to grieve all the things that didn't happen, that did happen, that couldn't happen. And to recognize that we have to grieve with it. Like, I think that there have been things that have sort of been felt around, and maybe big traumas, especially, we kind of tucked them away, like people helped us learn to tuck them away. And I had a whole summer of going to work, working my butt off after my separation, before my divorce was complete, and going home and sitting on my bed in my condo every night and crying. I didn't date. I didn't go out with my friends. I didn't drink. I just came home to myself literally and sobbed and grieved and allowed my vessel to be cleared for goodness, because, and I still cry. I mean, you saw me almost tear up. I cry almost every day. It's just that it's not the same process now. It is easier, but you got to go through hell to get to heaven. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And it's a process, continually coming home, getting off kilter, noticing the default positions, and then coming back. And you will create new normal, new default positions that grow. And you can't get rid of the other ones, but you overlay them with new ones. And I think those places that are bruised and maybe have scars that are no longer oozing in the same way as we move through it are beautiful. They're part of what make us compassionate, big-hearted, beautiful people, because we choose to get better, not bitter.
Yes, 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 yes.
This is where I tell my clients, I say, you know what? There's things in this world. There's an exercise, you exercise, you have meditation, you have yoga, and those are called practices. And so this is a practice. You will continue to practice and practice and practice. Like if I have 30 something years of a way of doing this thing, that will always be my default, but I'm practicing, constantly coming back to, you said home. And I'm curious, would you like to share the practice that you brought today?
You mean the practice of going home?
Yeah. Well, I mean, whatever you wanted to share, like the tool that you wanted to bring.
Oh, there's so many tools.
Just bring a quick one.
Yeah, I think the biggest tool that I want to have everyone think about and lean into is think about what your greatest fear is. At the core of who you are, if your life went the absolute worst way, what would your life look like? For me, it was I would be abandoned and alone. I'd always be left, and I'd be the unchosen. That was the one for me. I would always be the unchosen. And, you may not know it right now, but journal about it. Go think about it. Think about the pattern that shows up that is your most painful place. And can you sit there with that inside and know that fear was created when you had a much less mature brain, when you didn't know as much about the world, and you were probably trying to make sense of something difficult. So if you can identify that, for me, it was I'm unchosen. I'll always be unchosen. And let me tell you, that manifested in my life over and over and over again. And it was imprinted in me before I was even born. So if you can go to that greatest fear and feel that in your body, and remember that this is often the generator of things that are difficult in your life, and go to that from that inner parent, that loving, present inner parent that I hope you'll continue to grow. Remember, if you're not sure how to parent yourself, you probably know how to do this on the outside with other people. Even if it's not with people, if it's the way you're loving to your dog, your pet, your partner, your friends. But think about that energy inside of you, bringing it to yourself. Can you visualize yourself when you were a sweet little baby, when you were vulnerable? And imagine this being feeling that feeling, because I'll tell you, if you felt it later, the reason it's stuck is there's something earlier. And become aware of that, which for me, again, was I'll always be unchosen. You might be afraid of being alone, of never having someone, of always hurting, of never being good enough. Recognize that as that inner voice of your inner child, your vulnerable child. And then sit with it with that inner present parent and allow that part to be met, fed, and nourished. Give him or her exactly what it is you imagine you want on the outside. I call that the Disney delusion. If you imagine, like many of us have, that thing outside, that person, that perfect situation will come, and then this will all be better. We'll walk off in the sunset together, or this job or this money will make me feel better. This happened, this pain, maybe for you it seems like a short time ago, but this happened before the present moment. So it has to be healed within you. And have that present parent sit with that part. That part of you might need to cry, might need to shake physically, might need to cocoon and go in. It needs to be met. A trauma only sticks in us. It only stays when it is alone. And most of us experienced our trauma alone. We weren't believed. We weren't listened to. We weren't met. Go and believe that part. Listen and be with that part and allow those feelings to be met by you. And you're going to have to practice this again and again and again. And when you have linchpin moments, when you advocate outside of you for what you need and you advocate and set boundaries inside for you, there will be, the inner parent will grow and the trust will become solid and more solid. And more solid, and that inner child will rest. She won't anymore go out and try to find partners. She won't try to be the yes girl or the cute one that does everything for everybody, that's known for being the person that helps everybody else. Fire her or him from doing anything, even for you inside. That vulnerable child's only job is to feel everything and to let you vulnerably, the inner parent, meet her, to help her feel or him feel safe or met, to know that they will be okay exactly as they are, that they are lovable exactly as they are. This is the practice to go in. And the more that you go in and you don't judge it. Oh, you can't be angry. No, welcome the anger. You have every reason to be angry. Validate it. This is a part that needs to be met and expressed with you. But don't take it out to people outside unless it's your therapist, unless it's a close friend who's holding that space for you. Stay with the energy. It's difficult. It can be scary. You might feel like your life might end or you might collapse in. But if you really meet it with that vulnerable parent that's present, meeting that vulnerable child, because we're vulnerable, all of it inside, you'll find that the wave may come and toss and turn you, but at some point there'll be more self-connection. And when some of this has been processed, the adult will be able to make decisions in the world, because it's the adult's job to notice patterns on the outside, to notice patterns on the inside, and then to make choices from that safe, self-connected place inside. Keep coming back to you. And if you don't know how you feel, notice sensations. If you always talk about your mom and you feel a crimp in your back, like, start to pay attention. Our bodies speak to us all the time, and they are messengers of things we've long ago forgotten. And you know, this isn't something to do alone. And your partner, your friends, they might be able to help you a little bit, but find someone who can sit with you and help you remember the truth of who you are, that doesn't put themselves on a pedestal so that you go to them for advice, that teaches you you have the best advice. You've just lost track of it. It's all in you, I promise. All the answers are in you. You just need to remember to remember. And sometimes we got to get some crap out of the way for that. You know, love, our intuition and messages are always there waiting for us to tune in. There's more than you can humanly imagine right now. So if you're feeling hopeless, if you feel like you lose your way sometimes, you know, those of us that are really doing this work have done that too, and we know that. And it's a matter of less going away from your center. We can teeter-totter back and forth, but this center place has more to afford than you can imagine, and it will make magic in your life. It's not easy work. It's simple. It's not easy. It takes practice, but it's possible to have more than you can even imagine. It's amazing. I wish you all luck with this, and I hope that you'll join my Vulnerable Living group on Facebook. I'm everywhere, Vulnerable Living, and I'm going to be doing some media blasts soon. But, you know, I've got an ongoing group that teaches people this. And if you're interested, you know, reach out to me.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so Monday nights, Pacific Standard Time from 6 to 7, I have a group, and we have a beautiful group of people that we come every Monday night, and I teach you the truth of who you are, which is you are resourced, you're beautiful, and you're probably forgetting that throughout the week. And I talk about these vulnerable living skills. There are sometimes questions that are asked, and there's sometimes topics that I teach on. I kind of follow the lead of what's happening in the energy of the group.
So where should they follow you first, or where can they find information about that?
Sure. Go to Vulnerable Living on Facebook. Like I said, I'm in all the social media platforms, but Facebook is where I'm most active. That'll be a place that you can learn. I post things every day as resources of support. And then vulnerableliving.com, if you go to my products, you can see there are ways to subscribe to my group. You can do it month to month, or you can do it quarterly. The deal's a little better quarterly, but it's really reasonable. It's under $100 a month. So that's under $25 a week. And let me tell you, the people in my group are rocking and rolling. They are making big changes in short periods of time.
Is that Vulnerable Living group?
Yep, that's vulnerable. And that's what can be found at vulnerableliving.com under products.
And then can you put in the chat just right there, your Facebook, so that they can find you there?
Yeah, let me go get it.
I will get your...
If I go there, will it click me out? If I'm gone for a minute, just know that's what I'm doing.
Hold up. Oh, Laura, this is Laura. This is amazing. just to spend time with you and to have you in space and time and to share about vulnerability.
Mm.
To hear your stories and to share, always sharing stories with Dawn. And I think this is how community is built, and this is how friendship is built, and this is how the network of how the world evolves, as we share our gifts with the world. And again, I'm not everyone's flavor. Dawn's not everyone's flavor. You're not everyone's flavor. And this is just how the whole self-love show is. It's like maybe this person is right for you. So if you want to reach out to Laura about the vulnerable group and learn more about how you can live vulnerably.
And I'm vulnerably unable to paste my group. I'm not sure why, but look, it's Vulnerable Living on Facebook. And
I put here, I will do it.
You put
you put it in there. Oh, I can copy that there. Okay.
Here, I got it.
You did. Thank you.
Yeah.
This technological stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, you're doing great. We're all in it together.
Yes, and I appreciate you guys helping me out with that.
Of course.
We are all on this journey together, and I do believe we're more alike than different. And this bullshit that goes on, sorry, I hope that's okay, but in our culture of dividing us, it's not the truth of our being. Love is the answer. That was the last thing my dying mother said, and I believe it to be true, and I'm living that. And it looks like the people in your community are as well.
Yeah.
And we don't mean foofy love without boundaries, people. We mean self-love first, boundaries keeping ourselves in, and then the overflow from that, not the meat hooks out there. Put away your meat hooks.
Well, that's not love. That's attachment wounding, and that is agenda. So that is using someone to get your needs met.
Yes. And it's our job to meet our needs.
It is. And we're, it's our job to meet our needs and to hold and to also ask for the needs in community. Yes. There's only so many things. Here's an example. I'm going to tell you, this is a real life example. I just broke up with my partner 2 weeks ago. I'm having my grief moments. It's different because I'm living vulnerably and authentically. I'm moving through it in a very, very different way this time. But I've also noticed that even as much as I can self-source certain things like connection or self-source, like connection to self. Who's feeling disconnected? I'm feeling disconnected. But I can't get the co-regulation piece. I can only regulate my body to a degree that I can. And so I invited a friend in my community out to go dancing, my first tango dance class last night. And this person ended up coming over, and we spent like till 1:00 just chatting. We made tea. This is really funny. We made tea, which is still in my room. We didn't drink it, and we just talked tea. We were like about the whole world, and ended up being like, "Hey, would you like to platonically stay and cuddle all day?" And they were like, and I just want to say, the way that I feel today in my body is very different than the way that I've been feeling the last few days. And like the actual physical touch my body needs, co-regulation, like heartbeat, breath stuff. Yes. And I can't meet that need for myself. I mean, Winston, I don't know if you can see him. He can only meet it so far as well. So as much as I can self-source, which I'm totally an advocate for, there's also knowing oneself and being vulnerable enough.
Yes. And that is important. And I think that comes as a result of self-sourcing. And then the other is they aren't meat hooks, but it's an ask, and someone can say yes or no.
Yeah, and I'm not attached.
You're not.
They were like, "Oh yeah, I could really use some hugs and cuddles too. That would sound fantastic." And I was like, I'm not using that person to meet a need. And another example, I went on a date the other day, and this person we had this like sweet connection. Okay, let's cuddle.
cuddles.
A sweet connection. And then they watched a video about my recent breakup and how I'm refocusing my life on school and work and all of these things. And asked me some questions like, well, where does dating fall in there? Like, what, like you specifically said these things, and I'm curious, like, it's a fresh breakup. Are you? And I was like, oh, good questions. No, I'm not actively like, I'm not seeking something outside of myself to make myself feel better, but I'm also not open to connection. But I'm
Yes.
being very cautious about how I engage. Like, and here's some vulnerable moment is like, would I really love to have a lover right now and just distract myself? Totally. I am also human. And I was like, and I consciously don't want to do that with you because you're not to be used. You are a human being with that
Yes.
is worthy of love, dignity, and respect. And we both deserve connection and friendship and collaboration. And like,
Yes.
I don't know when partnership might come. I'm
Yes.
also going to take this grief moment and bracket it in this department. I mean, it's, and he goes, oh, I got it. Yeah. I understand where you're at. I'm
Beautiful.
not going to use you.
Mm.
If I wanted to use someone, I'd want to make sure that they wanted to be used.
Yeah, that's a whole other talk, right?
Yeah. And so it's really, I think I'm just touching buttons over here. So
I was like,
yeah, it's really in this sense of self-sourcing first,
Yes.
and then the places where that you need help, because we need help. Sometimes I'm like, hey, Dawn, can we have a girls' night or a movie, or can we just talk or something like that? Because there's things that I can't do for myself, and I know that. But I also come like, hey, I've done all these things. I took my shower. I did my somatic release work. I've talked to my therapist, and I still need more. Can you offer that to me? And sometimes she's like, nah, I don't have capacity.
Yes.
Like, thank you for trusting me to tell me no. And thank you for
Yes.
being honest. And I love you. And let's connect later.
And I think that's so important. Thank you for adding that in, because I just think that a lot of people are outsourcing their healing, by trying to get distracted and by bringing other people in. And that's, to me, the hallmark of codependency. So yes,
Exactly.
it's resourcing ourselves first, and then having resources outside of us that have a choice to say yes or no. That's so healthy.
Yes.
so healthy.
And I just want to say, in dating, Trish, I invite you. I don't know what your process is, but for me, my dating was about really learning the new me, who I felt better with, what the new me, the big me, the me that was more connected to myself. I did a lot of serial dating. Everybody gets to do it their own way. But I remember my therapist, who's the guy I'm going to suggest you have on the show, said, Laura, you were the best dater I've ever known. You inspired me. And it's because each time it was a better fit for me.
Yes.
And I was respectful of them, but it was each no. And I had to learn to say no. I was always a yes. Oh, they like me. Okay, I'll date them. Well, I might, or I might not. I might not get past a phone call because I'm not feeling it. But also there were people I needed to spend some time with and then not be with anymore. And no is just as important as yes.
Yes. And this is one of them. Like, I have pretty high standards, and I know myself well enough to know, like, what is a go for me and what is not a go for me. Like, this person didn't like, I have a value for wild disclosure in my life, and community care. Like, I have a value for community care and protection. And that person didn't share the same value in the same way. And I need that.
Yep.
And it was like, hey, I love and respect you. We're still friends. We're still connecting. And clarity, disclosure, consent is just in it. It's like, maybe I'm a little obsessive about it, but that's me. And I get to choose that because that's how I want to live my life. It's here. And I'm totally fine being alone. I'm totally fine being solo.
Yes.
Because it's just raising my standards to the places that I feel good about myself, and treating everyone with respect and curiosity and love and dignity, because that is the way to do it. And I'm gaining a bunch of friends.
Well, I was going to say, in my dating, I have quite a few male friends that I acquired in that, and they're still with me. I think that's the important thing, is being willing to say no to what's not enough for the boundaries you have, and trusting, because it's not like, because the meat hooks could come out if it's like, well, this person's really good in this way, and let me keep them here. But it's like, no, that's great. We can be friends. And who knows, as you said, something might evolve later, but staying true to our standards, because I always tell people, I have women that come in here and men that come in my office, and they're both looking for the same thing. And it's so funny. They'll say, but I don't think there are many people out there like that. And I'm like, okay, I'm not a dating service, and I can't expose anything because this is confidential, but there are people like on the other side of the spectrum here looking for you. There are men and women looking for exactly what you want to offer. They've just been with the people that like the people you were with. So keep shining your light, people. There are people looking for what you have, and don't settle for less than what you want. And you want to be with someone that goes, my boyfriend smiles when I'm my crazy, weird self. He just like, he loves it. And I go, oh, I'm so glad I don't shrink myself anymore.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Don't shrink wrap yourselves, people.
You know, it's scarcity is a social program.
Mm-hmm.
This idea that scarcity is in relationships is a social lie that we were taught for lots of times. And I liked, what was it, the Disney delusion? That
yes.
So it's part of that. It's part of capitalism. It's part of the New York family. It's so deep. Like, it's a capitalistic, or not a capitalistic, it is a society there, but it is a codependent society. Like, that's how we're taught that love is. It's not like that. It's actually, love is available, but you have to believe that you're worthy of it. And that there are people out there. Like, I'm not dating to have this person like checklist a list, like,
right,
because that's dehumanizing. That is insanely dehumanizing, to look at a list and be like, oh, they don't check the whatever thing that but I'm looking at this person in curiosity of what is possible here? How can I be in more loving relationship with them, regardless of wherever it goes, and how to move forward. It is not about conforming, contorting, asking them to contort. I mean, this is one of the reasons why my partner and I separated, is like, he's like, you have high standards in this, and I feel like you're manipulating me to be that way. And I was like, oh, if that's how it sounds, that is not what I want. If this doesn't feel right to you, that is okay. But I am going to lean out, because this is the things that I need to feel safe and good, and to have the, like, I totally respect your, like, you as a man in my life. And I didn't know that before this relationship. And I'm sorry, had I known, I would have set you up for success and told you those things. And it's about that.
Well, yeah. And in dating, my friends that have the checklists are still single, by the way, a lot of them. And, I told them, look, I'm going to ask really vulnerable questions early on to see if this person can match me. And the guys that would say, can't we just go have a beer? I'm like, no, I'm not interested in having a beer with somebody. If I don't know a little bit more about you, I can just sit in a bar and do that. But my questions that I asked, and I'm going to put this out there because they can be really helpful. First of all, I asked, what makes you happy? No, first of all, sorry. Why did the last two relationships you had, what was your part in the ending?
Yes.
Because they'll say, oh, she was a bitch, or she had an affair, or whatever it is. But what was your part? And then what makes you happy? What brings you happiness in your life, and what scares you the most? Now, when I told my girlfriends I was going to ask those questions, which I made up on my own, they're like, oh my God, isn't that too much to ask right away? I thought, no, it's a way for me to vet. It was a way for me to see, could they handle that kind of a depth in me? That's just the beginning of the depth. If you can't handle that, sorry, I'm not interested. So
You'd love it. I have something called the make or break questions, or it's make or break, or can I scare you away? And it's a second date. And it's like, tell me your red flags. It's literally like, because I don't want to waste your time. Your collagen is fading and your telomeres are shortening every day. Same with mine. I am way too old for this baloney. Like, I just want to know what mental health issues you struggle with, how you participate in a relationship, if you're working on yourself, and how we can, again, what's possible here. Because I want to be in.
And I love that. So I say, when you're dating, don't tell them what you want in your dating profile. Here, people pay good money for this. I'm giving it to you for free. If you've got a dating profile, don't tell people what you're looking for, because the narcissist will feed that and act that way.
Yes.
They will. Yes. So you tell them what you have to offer. And I love the questions that you were asking about red flags, because when my clients go, oh, I met someone wonderful, I'm like, of course, it's been 3 dates or it's been a month. What could possibly be that person's red flags? What's their relationship with their mom like? What's their relationship with their dad like? That's another thing that I'd like to know. And if it was difficult, have they already done work? Is a person on a growth path? If you're on a growth path, don't try to get these men to grow, and they're not going to get better when you marry them or you're with them, or they're not going to get better if they're not already getting better.
Yes.
Stop the Disney delusion.
That is those are on my list. And I was like asking one of my best friends, I was like, hey, so what would you put on? And this is her question. This is the funniest question. How often do you change your bed sheets? And I laughed so hard. I was like, this is literally the one I'm going to start with, because it's like the least like spicy one.
Yes, but it's great. It's unexpected, right?
Biggest insecurity. What's your relationship to money? How often do you lie? And this is a big one, because how often they tell me, oh, I never lie. Baloney. We all lie.
Shit.
Baloney.
They're lying to themselves.
I know. And I was like, when's the last time you lied? And then I was like, well, the last time I lied was just something dumb. And then I just came clean about it because it was stupid. And again, we're programmed not to disclose, and we're programmed to do these things to protect ourselves. Anyway.
Can I quickly say there, working with, there's so much I want to say. Maybe we need to do one on dating. Can we do another one? Let's do it. Let's set it up. Because I love supporting people around that. I mean, that was something I thought about doing, a dating business. Maybe it'd be dating vulnerably. I don't know. But there's so
I love it.
Well, we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
So what
I'll
I'm
pause
gonna
it there.
Yeah, we'll come back to it. And dating is a good question, because we all got some work to do, because then Dawn's been in a marriage for like a zillion years. We want to know how that works.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm kind of over here like, not in the dating world at all.
No.
Reflecting on all the things I was asking myself when I was actually celibate for that, year and 4 months, I think, because I wasn't looking for a partner. And so I was really, really clear when if I chose to let someone back in, that I was really clear that God was just going to place them in my life, that I wasn't looking. And most for me, I made the change from, because that was the mistake I made in the past, was I would always jump in sexually too fast.
Yes.
And I needed to make that change. So I made sex last, actually, in our relating. I made us wait, not because I like it, but I just didn't, I needed to know there were all these other, I needed to know that all the other places were established first. And most importantly, I needed to know what his relationship to God was like. I needed to know if he had a relationship and what it was like, and did he practice? Did he have a spiritual practice? Like, I needed to know that foundation was there and not based on mine.
Yeah. And that's, what, it's so interesting, because that's what a lot of us have done. I say we grab with our vaginas. It's easy to fuck, it's easy to have great sex for some of us. Not everybody. I'm not speaking for everybody, but I can say that a lot of my clients will have sex, they'll be intimate early, and then they're attached to the person. The inner child in them is physically attached, but we don't know if it's a match for the adult.
That was my mistake. I made that mistake a lot.
I did too.
In my dating years. And it was brutal for me. And my inner wounded little girl was so like, I was serving myself up on a silver platter, like, please love me. And man, I had to break all of that. And just celibacy helped me, because I really committed my whole heart, being, and soul to God. I married myself twice. And then we ended up getting married twice. Not really like planning it, but it ended up being that way. So it was just like a reconfirmation of like, the external is a reflection of the internal at all times.
Yes.
That reflection is a reflection of inner world reality at all times. And so even though we've had a lot of curriculum surface in our marriage, we're definitely soulmates, and we're definitely partners in divine curriculum. And we're not exempt. Just because I've been married a long time doesn't mean that we don't have stuff to work through. We're actively still working through it. And it's a recommitment to keep working through, a recommitment to keep meeting each other, a recommitment to keep leaning in, even when it's sticky and hard. And we just had a big moment, like, after Burning Man, I was dysregulated for 2 weeks, and it was really intense, but it was like another level of like this deepening of a stretching our relationship into the new way we're both seeking to grow and be.
How beautiful. What a beautiful model for people to hear, because people need to know there are people that we can partner with that also want to do the productive, difficult stuff, that they might be scared, that we all have our moments. It's not perfect. My guy and I aren't perfect, but we are working toward progressing closer to ourselves and finding ways to navigate with each other in more loving ways that each of us grow more together.
Nobody's perfect.
Oh God, and certainly that would be
list.
boring.
You don't get to create your perfect person because there's a list that you're putting someone through.
And that's an adult that's not connected to, in my mind. That's like imposter syndrome. It's not connected.
It's also not real.
Connected.
It's not connected to reality. It's not connected to the body or the heart or the spiritual genital connection. It's just not connected. Yeah.
Well, and if find me a perfect person who's looking for perfect people, because God knows I'm not perfect, and I'm sure none of us are.
I want the freedom to be imperfect.
It's the ego that is seeking perfection. Let's just be honest about that. Like, and that's the truth of it. And we're here in Earth School to train our ego to listen to the higher self. And that's what gives us like living into the vulnerable self. It's actually like being in the heart.
Yes.
You know, it's not in the head. It's not in the mind, you know, and the ego is in the mind. It's in the emotions. It's in the physical world reality. And it's very seductive to buy into what the ego tells about ourselves. And so we have to train it to not listen to it and to actually rewire that inner language, because that's the work, right? That's the work I do with my clients, is rewire all that stuff that's rooted in the stuff that happens so young in your life, and it's reflected in your relationships now. And so that's the key ingredient, right? And so it's really like when we fully listen to our soul and listen to our spirit, learn to live a soul expressed life. Like that's where your happiness comes from. You're no longer trying to meet a goal line life. Like goal line thinking is like, you know, have 2 kids, have the perfect white picket fence, have the perfect career, make such and such amount of money, on and on and on, right? The list can go on and on and on. And we all know those people out there that have seeking that like perfect life, but yet they get it all, right? They get all the things, and then they are deeply unfulfilled. And why is that? Because they're not living from a soul line expression. And when you start to lean into the soul and heal with the soul and meet everything from the question of like, is this soul, the soul that I am? Lean into that and ask from that place, drink from that place, seek all the answers from that place. Then everything in your life becomes way more fulfilled. The things that don't serve you fall away. The relationships that aren't working fall away. And the relationships that make you hum and happy step in. They step in. Sisterhood, deep friendships, good circles of friends, long time good relationships, family members that have been difficult start changing. Like, and not because you're changing them, because you change and they have to reorient themselves to you because you've changed so much.
Yep. Some come in and some go away. And again, you say, thank you for, filtering life.
Exactly. Thank you for self-selecting out.
Exactly.
It's very loving of you. All right. Well, we're going to have another conversation about dating and relationships, because that is super important.
I love this. Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's spicy.
Bring the marriage side of things.
I got some ideas for you, Dawn. We have a meeting about some spicy. Anyway, I just want to say thank you. Thank you, Lara, for your just amazingness and your vulnerability and sharing your wisdom with us and our viewers and our listeners. And it's been wildly fun. Thank you for being wildly fun and yourself.
Thank you, ladies, both of you, Trish and Dawn, for having me. I look forward to doing this again. I mean, maybe it could be a regular thing. I love joining forces with other beautiful, powerful women and different ages. We're different. You're in your 30s. I'm 60, and you're what, in your 40s?
I'm 48.
Yeah, almost 50. So look at that. I love that. The power triangle.
Yeah.
So I also want to say thank you to Dawn Light and our team who makes all of this possible all the time. Give a little twinkle to Roy and Russell for making it all work. Yeah. Thank you to Love Coach Academy, Scott Katamas, Global Peace Tribe, and all of you who make this show possible. And we love you. We'll see you same time, same place next week.